there everybody, how's it going? It's Jessie from Jessie Marie Does Stuff here on FlossTube, and it's been like 24 hours since my last video went up. I am back as promised to do my update that is 2 weeks late. Well, no, I guess it's only a week late, but it's been 2 weeks since I did an update. Now, yesterday I posted a video that just contained my plans for March across my various interests. And I mentioned that yesterday I had a really short window. Today I had a much longer window for filming. However, that does not seem to be the case. And the reason that I say that is that we have a major storm front coming through. Turns out we're already under a tornado watch. Yay, March. I mean, we are redefining in like a lion. Hopefully out like a lamb is the reality. We're not supposed to have any severe weather until just after noon, and it's about 10:40 now. So I have a little window of time before I have to basically turn off all the electronics and hibernate in a bathroom. So yeah, I mean, I have a bigger window today, but nothing insane. No, I don't have all day. So I might be going a little bit quick, but we'll cover it all. So what do I have to cover today? I have questions. I have some whips. I have some finishes. I have some retail therapy. I can talk a little bit about like some loose plans and some books and some knitting. So quite a few things to go over. There was a few things that I wanted to address before I got started, and I didn't put them in my notes, so I'm not even going to reference my notes. But what were they? Oh, anything that I need to link to will be linked in the show notes. The link to the show notes is in the description box below. Feel free to check out that blog where I tell you everything. And happy March, everybody. I can't believe it. 2 months gone. Just gone. So, yeah, let's get into it. Oh, that was one of the things that I wanted to talk about. Okay, so I haven't mentioned it yet on my channel, but I did bring it up in Stitch Mania, and what I wanted to talk to you about was my birthday sale. So I am hosting a stitch-along to celebrate my first 29th birthday. I am turning 29 at the end of April, and so I put together a stitch-along very reminiscent of the Stitch Mania challenges. Now, I know not everybody uses Facebook, but maybe you want to participate in this, and so not this video, but coming up I'm going to run through the various days and the tasks or whatever. We're going to have a hashtag on Instagram so that people who want to participate via Instagram can do so, and I'm going to try to vlog. But I am also going to link directly to the Facebook group because I put together a totally separate group where people are starting to share their plans and whatnot. And so that will be linked in the description box as well as in the show notes, so that if you want to check it out, you are more than welcome to do so. I love those Stitch Mania challenges where it's like a daily rotation through a whole bunch of projects. I love those. And so I started thinking about me. Oh, the wind is picking up. Okay, well, this is going to be fun. So I started thinking about me, which in and of itself feels very narcissistic, but it's okay. And so I put together some challenges and some tasks based around me, and it's going to be fun. It's like, I think there are 10 days total, maybe 11. I think maybe 11 days total, so there we go. And you guys know me, I'm a bit of a storyteller, and so if you can tell a story to make a project work for a task, go for it. Somebody asked if they could incorporate some of their knitting into it. Go for it. Somebody asked if they could do just one project and try to make it work for all 11 tasks. Go for it. Somebody asked if they could do all new starts. Of course. Why not? It's a birthday. It's a party. It's a celebration of me. Anyway, okay. So that's kind of what I wanted to cover with the stitch along. And then I also wanted to say I'm sorry that I didn't film last week. I tried. Okay, so I'm going to tell you this real quick story here about what happened last week. So typically on a Wednesday morning, I will get up and I stitch wake up at about 7 to 9. And then at 9, I'm getting into the habit of going around the elliptical for a little bit. But in that interim stitching time, on Wednesdays, I will watch last week's video, just to make sure that I'm not repeating myself. Well, this particular Wednesday, I watched my last video, and then I had some more time during my stitching time, so I watched Stitcherista. And I don't know what it is about Stitcherista, but it seems that after I get done watching one of her videos, it's like I'm channeling Danielle. So I sit down to film, and everything I say is a whole lot of nope on that one. And I'm like, stop saying that. That's not your line. That belongs to somebody else. So I felt really awkward, and I kept stopping and starting and trying again to get past that, and I just couldn't do it. So then I tried to film on Thursday. There were issues, and then I was like, you know what? That's fine. I'll just save it to the weekend, because Danny had to work on Saturday, and Danny was going to a buddy's house to watch the Daytona 500 on Sunday. So I was like, well, I'm going to have some free time. So what did I do during that free time? I stitched. I did not film. I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm just going to save this to my normal Wednesday, and we will call it a day. That'll be fine. So that's why I didn't film last week. Feeling a little awkward. More so than usual, because I'm aware I'm an awkward person. It's just a part of being me. So yeah, okay, let's get into it, and we will start with the questions. So let me go ahead and pull up my notes. All right. So the first question comes from Linda Stitches. Hello, Linda. And Linda asks about my bead order. She says, can you go into detail on your bead order, how much you ordered, about how many were expected in the box and such? Linda, I am going to ask for a little bit of clarification from you, what bead order you're referring to. I have two separate bead orders, technically. One of which is my chatelaine kit, and I'm assuming that this is in relation to the beading on my Frosty Knot Garden, because that's kind of been the main theme of my channel for the last few weeks. So, if you're referring to the beads that came in the kit, I don't make any delegation of how many beads I need. The chart says how many beads. European Cross Stitch has access to that information. They weigh out an amount that will exceed that number and send that to you in the kit. So I just say I want the kit for Frosty Knot Garden, and they say, okay, we see here that you need 552 beads of Delica 051, specific details, and those are accurate, by the way. So they will weigh out a gram or 2 grams or 3 grams or however much it takes to fulfill that 552 beads. But all I said to them was I want Frosty Knot Garden. If you are referring to my second bead order, then I just ordered the smallest packet of Delica 051 from Fusion Beads that they had in stock. And the smallest packet they had was 5 grams, I think. 5 grams of crystal AB Delica cut beads. that equates to about 1,000 beads. So I didn't order what I needed. I ordered the smallest packet they had, because with fusion beads, I don't think that you can just order a few. I don't think you can just tell them, like, hey, I need 62 Delica 051. My giggling here is gonna make sense here in a few minutes, and if you follow me on any other social medias, then you already know what I'm giggling about. But anyway, how many were expected in the box? I was expecting enough to finish out the pattern. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. If you have any further questions about it, feel free to ask, and I'll see if I can help you out. Little Miss Weasley asks, do you iron your fabric before you start a new cross stitch? No, I do not. Usually if I'm in the mood to start something, I try to do as little preparatory work as possible. So, take for instance the Clouds Factory Fabulous Women in History. Here's my fabric as it came. Not gonna iron it. Not taking the time for that. My threads, I have pulled the first few that I know I'm gonna need immediately, but I haven't kitted up the whole thing yet. The only exception to that was with Mania, and when I was prepping for Mania last year, I was fully kitting up as best as I could every project that I was going to start. But, like, if I wake up one morning and I'm like, I want to start a new Heaven and Earth design, I'm going to pull up the first page, see the colors that I need, grab the fabric, and measure out to where I need to start. That's all the prep work I do. But no, I don't iron before I start a new project. Sorry. Cross My Stitch, who is Susan. Hello, Susan. She would like to know how I protect my beading when I'm using a frame. This is a new to me thing, and when it's relevant, I will insert a picture so that you can see how this works. But my beads are protected with this. And this is just your standard quilt batting. Now, I used to use felt. However, this is like much squishier. Go figure. It's a little bit thicker than felt is. And I just bought a great big roll of it from Craft Store. And yeah, so this can get rolled up into my Millennium frame, but it's enough padding that adds enough squish so that the beads have somewhere to sit into. So they're not mashed up against like the hard structure of my wood frame, like that. And originally my plan was that I wasn't going to roll up any big crystals into that batting, but I gave it a try and it worked out just fine. So yeah, that's kind of my plan for that. Now, there are some bugle beads in my Frosty Knot garden, but they're very small. Persephone, on the other hand, calls for some longer bugle beads. And based on Dee from Dee Stitcher's recommendation from approximately 3 years ago, I ordered the smaller of the bugle beads, but they're still longer than the bugles called for in Frosty. So if there are any of those laying vertically or kind of vertically, I probably won't roll those up just because they are at serious risk for cracking. I'll probably put those on in my, I'll probably put that on my Q-snap to do that. But essentially, my beading is protected by quilt batting. And I wish that I could remember where I heard that the first time. I did not come up with that on my own. I cannot claim the credit for that because quilt batting and we don't know each other very well. I'm not a quilter, so yeah, I would have never thought to do that on my own. So if you were the first person, anybody out there, if you were the first person who showed me that, thank you. Okay, Next is a question from Stephanie Watson, and Stephanie, you should absolutely come back to FlossTube. That's just my 2 cents there. She would like to know if I am willing to show my basket O finishes. And that's the basket of finishes that I mentioned last time. I would love to be able to go through that, and I will do so. When I tried to film last week, I went through it, and it took a half hour, because as it turns out there's a lot of things in there, and there's a lot of memories in there. So, I don't have like a half hour to spare today, but I will definitely do that. I will definitely go through that basket because that's some fun stuff. And then she also asked how the bullet journaling is going. So let me show you. This is my bullet journal, and I saw a video today that's called this a loistrum. So forgive me, I pronounced it lectrum last time. I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce it. If anybody has any further information, let a girl know, because I don't want to be that clueless. So, when I talked to you guys last time about my bullet journal, I was here working on my dailies, and this is back in January, and early January, the very beginning of the year. So I had done these pages for my dailies, and then I did the 11th and the 16th, and then that was it. Then it went blank. So then a couple weeks ago, I was like, I need to get back to my bullet journal because it was really helping me out. So I did my February landing page. I actually did a landing page, you guys. Look at that. And I think it turned out really cute. And then I did a Stitch from Stash page. And as you can see, a whole lot of things happened in February. My border up here, whatever, I can't doodle. I tried, but I'm not very good at it. These little hearts here at the end, at the corners of the ledger, as you might say, total happy accidents. I overdrew one of the lines, and so I was like, yeah, I'll just extend it out and make it a heart. Then I turned all the corners into hearts, and now everything is hearts because February. So then I had a daily in February, and then nothing. So that was great. And this I did today. So I did my March landing page, and I love everything about this. Guys, I am not a doodler. I had to Google everything in this to figure out how to draw it. So, yeah. But I think it turned out really pretty. And so my theme is kind of pinks and greens, sort of like the start of spring. I did not want to go all over green because everybody gets all, oh my god, March is St. Patty's Day. I love St. Patty's Day, don't get me wrong. But the entire month is not St. Patty's Day, at least not for me. So anyway, so I love everything about this except this little doodle down here, and you can barely see it in pale green, and I'm not bringing it any closer than that. I just kind of wanted to fill that space in there, and I don't like it. It was not as planned out as I needed it to be. So I haven't done any of my monthly pages yet, but I'm going to do that here today. Probably when we lose power, because I am for certain we're going to lose power during the storms that we've got coming. So anyway, so that's my bullet journal. It's going. February I didn't do hardly any of my monthly pages just because I didn't start using it until the last week and a half of February. So it didn't make any sense for me to go to the effort of drawing out my book log and my calendars and habit trackers and whatnot. It just didn't make any sense for like a week's worth. So I I will do that for March. And since today is the 1st of March, now's a good time to do it. So there we go. Using my bullet journal. I also need to put in a collection for some plans for spring cleaning, because that is also something that I would like to start implementing. Okay, and then Lori Griffor asks, she asked this on my video, and she also asked it in Stitch Mania. I've already technically answered her in Stitch Mania, but just to mention it here, approximately how much time per day do you stitch? And it used to be kind of unlimited. It used to be anywhere from 4 to 10 hours I could devote to stitching. I had 2 record-breaking days where I did over 1,500 stitches on my Heaven and Earth designs. That was not achieved by a few hours of stitching. It used to be very unlimited. However, I am feeling the spring cleaning purge thing. I'm feeling like really like getting my house in order and getting some things taken care of. And so I've sort of put myself on a schedule so that my stitching is not unlimited anymore. I have to put a limit on it because there are some other things that I wish that I could just be like, whatever, it's not a big deal. But the reality of the situation is that I have to be an adult sometimes. And so before it was unlimited, and now I can say comfortably I get approximately 3 to 4 hours of stitching a day. I don't have kids, and my pet is an English bulldog, and my husband likes to watch TV and play video games. So, like, I get more time than other people who have to adult as well. So there's that. Once again, thank you everybody so much for your questions. If you've got questions, leave them, and I will get to them next time. All right, let's get into the works in progress. I know that you are all looking at the stuff hanging behind me there, and you're like, Jess, why is your laundry hanging there? It's not laundry. But I will get to that here in just a second. So, when I spoke to you guys last regarding a works in progress update, I'm going to take a quick sip actually. I don't normally drink soda, but kind of need a little bit of sugar. So, there we are. Okay. When I spoke to you guys last regarding a whip update, I was only working on my Chatelaine Frosty Knot Garden. And I went into this big spiel about how the beads that you get in a chatelaine kit from European Cross Stitch, they make sure you have enough, and I'm telling everybody, you know, if you're worried about it, don't be worried about it, because here's an example, and I have all these extra beads of this color that I won't use anymore. Boy, did I eat crow for that one. So, as I mentioned, I worked diligently on my Frosty Knot Garden following that video. And it reached the weekend, and on Saturday, we were going out to dinner with some members of Danny's family. And so I set the goal that I wanted to finish Frosty by Sunday evening. So I was working like gangbusters on Saturday. I was like, leave me alone, I'm beating. Kind of a thing. I'm like, I have to reach these certain goal points in order to be able to get that finished by Sunday night. So Saturday afternoon rolls around, and I'm beating along, and I'm going, and I'm looking at my Delica number 051. And I should have brought them, but I didn't. It doesn't matter. They're plain, they're very boring, crystal AB Delica beads. Very boring. Transparent, crystally looking. So I'm looking at my stash of these beads and I'm like, I don't know if I have enough. I have enough. It'll be fine. I told everybody on FlossTube that there's enough beads, so surely there's enough beads here. So I start beading faster because, as you know, the faster you bead, obviously you're going to have enough. You just have to go faster. No. Turns out that's wrong. Whoever told you that was lying. The faster you go, the faster you run out. And I ran out. I was approximately 62 crystal AB Delica 051 beads short. I was so mad. I was so mad. As you can understand. I mean, I went through this big long talk about, oh, there's plenty. So devastated me, posted about it on Mania, and everybody was like, contact Cindy at European Cross Stitch and she will send you some more. She's really good about that, and everybody on the Chatelaine support group said the same thing. But I know that Cindy's got a lot going on, and I didn't want to wait. So I looked on Fire Mountain Gems. They had them, no sweat. Looked on Fusion Beads. They had them, no sweat. In the meantime, though, I hadn't quite run out. Danny and I went on a frantic search through all 3 of my local big box craft stores in the hopes that surely one of them carries Delica beads. It's ridiculous. Of course they don't. That's not a big box craft store kind of thing. That's a bead store kind of thing. I don't have a bead store here. But I was hopeful. I was even looking to see if maybe, just maybe, there were some Delica cut beads that I could make it work. I knew that Miyuki seed beads or any other kind of seed beads I wasn't going to be able to fudge. But if I could find some Delica cut beads, size 11, I could make it work. No such luck. So I ended up ordering the beads from Fusion Beads because they had better rates for shipping. Because look, these beads are $2.25 for 1,000 beads. So, like, I didn't want to spend a fortune on shipping. I mean, I considered it. I'm not going to lie. I considered forking out the $45 for next day Sunday delivery. Considered it. But then I was like, this is ridiculous. I'm not spending $45 for $3 beads. So, but the comparable shipping rates between Fusion Beads and Fire Mountain Gems, like, Fusion Beads was way cheaper to do it. So I was like, I'm just going to go with Fusion Beads. And then somebody reminded me that Monday was President's Day, so Postal Service shut down. So I'm like, I just want to finish my Chatelaine. I just want to finish it. So they were eventually shipped out, scheduled for delivery on Friday. They were actually delivered on Thursday. So then on Friday, I worked real hard and finished up the Frosty Nut Garden. I did. I finished it. So we all know that what you're here to see is Frosty. So I've got her hung up because I'm trying to make sure she's protected. Oh, do you see the light flickering off the big old crystals there? Oh my god. I'm obsessed with this, you guys. I just stared at it for like 3 hours straight after I finished it. I just stared at it. I've been looking at it for 3 years, and I stared at it for 3 straight hours. Just mesmerized. She's done. Oh my gosh. Now, I haven't done my finished video of this, and I'm in the process of doing so. What I need to do is get a bunch of stuff cleared off my dining room table, and then dust it, because It's a little dusty over there. We don't usually sit at the dining room table. So that I can film a finished video of this. So that I can get up close with all of the gorgeous, gorgeous crystals. The ones that you see reflecting the light there, those are these absolutely beautiful cubes. Can you see it kind of popping up there? Kind of at my shoulder. They are, I think they're by Swarovski, and they are 6mm cubes, and they are just so pretty. There's also plenty of bicones, which I will zoom in on. But the funny part is that I'm going to bring it in real close so that you guys can see the crystal bead that was missing, and you're all going to be really mad at me for waiting so long. No, I'm not even going to get it to focus. So we'll just leave it as is. And I will go into more detail, and I'll get closer so that you guys can see all of the gorgeous beads. But I do love that the cubes are reflecting so much light. That makes me happy. I love those guys. I don't know why, but they make me happy. They're also at the base of the bush-looking tree thing. There are mint bicones, and mint is like my color right now. I'm obsessed with mint. And then there are plain clear crystal bicones, and there are some green, I believe they're called chrysolite bicones, just a few of those, and some alexandrite, which are kind of purpley tinted. Gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. The only thing that I wish that I had done differently, as far as the beading is concerned, is that it calls for a plain crystal bicone in the center. And the thing with bicones is that they tilt kind of funny. And so it makes this very directional. And Danny said, you should have put a cube in there. And so I thought about taking out that crystal and putting in a cube, because it would make more sense. It would make it a little bit more mandala-like. But the thread that I used to attach that crystal is also attached to these crystals and these down here. So like there's no cutting out that one crystal to stick in a cube instead. I should have had some forethought to do that, but I was just so like, oh my gosh, I'm putting on the last crystals. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So while I was getting to the end of this, I decided to film attaching the very last crystal. This one here. This little guy right here is the last one that I put on. And so I filmed it on my phone. And I posted it to Stitch Mania, and everybody was like, oh, that was so much fun to watch. It's absolutely mesmerizing. And I agree. I filmed it in a little bit slow-mo so that you could really see it happen. I believe it was, somebody said that it looked like the fabric was breathing as the bead was attached. I don't think what quite came through was that my Nymo beading thread got such an epic knot in it while I was doing that. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I'm trying so hard to just film myself attaching this last crystal, and I have the most epic knot ever. I thought, if that doesn't describe me and this project, honestly, I don't know what does. I finally get to the bitter end and a knot. And it's a knot garden, so, you know, it's kind of perfect. So somebody asked what I thought the most challenging part was. And I've done some thinking about this, and honestly, I think the most challenging part is my favorite part. And that is this part right here. You see the, like the interconnecting dark green paths in there? Okay. see if I can bring that in close. So that's done with a combination of stitches in a DMC, a dark green DMC, I believe it's 500. And then it's also done in a silk, which is a Gloriana, and I do not remember the name of it, but it is a highly variegated silk. There are 3 shades in it: brown, green, and blue. And so making it so that all of those colors lined up and made sense was kind of a challenge, just because of the way that, just the way that we stitch. You know, you go along here, and let's say your thread ends here, and so you have to somehow find a way to make those colors match up so that the transition makes sense, so that there isn't a noticeable transition. So it was complicated. It was also complicated by the fact that the stitches, there are cross stitches in there with 2 strands, and there are dense rows with one strand. So I had to make the thread work, essentially, to make that color transition seamless. So it was challenging, but it's also my favorite part because I made it work. Did it. There are a couple of parts where the eyelets or the rows don't match, but that's okay. So I'm just going to leave this here for a second, just in frame, so you guys can just stare at it. I'm going to peek behind and stare at it with you. Oh my gosh. I love this. I love this so much, it's just not even funny. I love the sparkle. There is sparkle that you can't see on camera from the endless yards of petite treasure braid. So beautiful. Let's see, what did this piece teach me? Because I did start it in 2014. As I mentioned, when I posted it approximately everywhere, I don't know when exactly I started it because my record keeping back then was, but I think that I started it somewhere around April 1st of 2014. And this project contained my first raised stitches, Jessica's, Algerian eyelets. No, that's not true. My first chatelaine, my first freebie chatelaine had eyelets. Rhodes, I don't think I had done before this. A mandala design, which is its own animal because you have to think about how you want it to look. It's kind of like the Heaven and Earth design 4 Seasons, where you have 4 distinct sides. And so I've seen some people talk about how they want to stitch the bottom section straight up and down, and then they want to turn their fabric to stitch the other sides of it. I don't know that I would do that necessarily, but that's, it's total preference. But you have to think about that with designs that are like this that have repeating sides. You also have to remember what side is the top, because if I didn't know that the top was, then that could have been the top, and I could have some sideways stitches. So anyway, just some things that I learned. What else did I learn? Oh, I don't like purl threads. Those are not fun. Yeah, that I don't like. I also learned that I can live with more mistakes than most people might think. This project is riddled with mistakes. And I found quite a few of them while I was beading. I'm not going to point it out, but there are at least 3 stitches that don't have their top leg. You'll never see it. There is a point where I goofed on the beading and I replaced a bead with a different bead. Let's see, what else? I think that's it. Nothing that not that I can remember anyway. Oh, isn't she gorgeous though? Mistakes and all. Just stunning. So this, to me, is worthy of a Jill Renzel Studio frame. But I have to think on that some more and save up some money because those custom painted and cut mats, them's pricey. And I am terrified of putting this in the mail and sending it to Utah. I was talking with Sarah from Sarah Shears here on FlossTube, and I was joking about the fact that I would drive it across country to Utah. But I might. I was only half joking. So, anyway, there's that. There's my gorgeous Frosty. And, do you guys want to see the back? There's the back. Ooh, that's crazy. I'm not showing you any closer than that. So, there's Frosty. 3-year project. Learned so much. Having a conversation with Miss Mel and with Jen and with Letitia, and just kind of talking about how this project is mine, but there are some serious memories that have been sewn into it. That project was started before FlossTube. Cross Stitch It's Fun used to, well, it was started before FlossTube was called FlossTube. Let me make that distinction. Cross Stitch It's Fun used to do these regular hangouts, and before the video hangouts got started, before Cross Stitch It's Fun was even formulated, a few of us were doing these voice hangouts where we had a voice chat app, and I vaguely remember at one point I was stitching with Petite Treasure Braid number 10 on that project, and I had the voice chat app on my iPad in my lap underneath it, and so you could hear the Petite Treasure Braid going through the fabric, and I just remember people being like, "That's a mesmerizing sound." I was like, yeah, it's comforting just to hear that thread really being pulled through the linen. I mean, it wasn't like a ripping sound. It was just that's kind of a heavy braid being pulled through a linen fabric. And that's a memory that project will always hold for me. Hanging out with Charity and Miss Mel and Gothy and Orietta and Dee and countless others, just hanging out chatting about cross stitch. So yeah, Frosty's a big one. And when I finished it, I had a long think about how much it was worth for Stitch from Stash. And at first I only claimed $75 because so for Stitch from Stash, if you have something that's extra large, then usually there's like a review that needs to be done for a value, for a finished graded value. And so I asked Stephanie, and Stephanie was like, well, for the size alone, that's at least $30. But with the beads and the specialty threads and specialty stitches and whatnot, I would say anywhere from $75 to $100. Somebody else said $250. Somebody else said, what'd you spend on it? So originally I had only claimed $75. But I since increased that to $100 just because it feels bigger somehow, in some way. I was talking to Zanny about this. Sometimes I consider there to be three major designers on a stitcher's bucket list. And this could be a very personal bucket list. So this could be my bucket list. It may not be your bucket list. But to me, Mirabilia, Heaven and Earth Designs, Chatelaine are three designers on my bucket list. And by finishing that Chatelaine, I have finished my bucket list. Because I've done a Mirabilia, and I've done a Heaven and Earth Design, and I've done Chatelaine now. So it just feels bigger than just a cross-stitch project. Not only that, I kind of outed myself a little bit. I made it my cover page, or my cover picture on Facebook, on my personal Facebook page, for all of my friends and family to see. And that kind of felt like a big deal. I mean, cross-stitch is not a widely accepted hobby, especially not for somebody my age. There is a stigma associated with it. And while I don't subscribe to the same stigma, and while it will never prevent me from stitching, it still felt like, okay, here's a piece of myself that I'm just going to share with everybody that I know. And I hadn't shared it with them previously. So that kind of felt like a big deal. I don't know why we do that. Like, why do we hold that part of ourselves quiet? Why don't we share that? Is it because of the stigma? Maybe. Probably. Let's be honest. So anyway, so it felt like a big deal. So that's why I claimed the $100 total. On top of the fact that I had to invest a little bit beyond the kit, the chart. I had to replace one of the threads with a discontinued Silken Colors Silken Pearl. I actually found the called for thread way back then, and it cost a little bit more than it should have. But whatever. I had to buy more beads. I had to supply DMC, and I spent 3 years on the project, so I felt like it was kind of worth something a little bit more. So that is my Frosty. And I will talk more about it, because I can't stop talking about it, in that finished video, and that will be forthcoming. So I am going to reorganize a little bit and talk about the rest of the things that I worked on. Okay, so in the interim, while I was waiting for beads from Fusion Beads to finish up Frosty Knot Garden, I decided that I needed to work on something else. I knew that my frustration levels with the beads could have totally shut me down. Like, I could have just refused to stitch for those 5 days or whatever that it took for the beads to get here. So I immediately got started on something else. Now, conveniently enough, that week, Cross Stitch It's Fun, one of the the weekly challenge for that week was Maliciously Hopeless, which was originally 7 new starts in 7 days. And I wasn't feeling like having 7 new starts in 7 days. My primary goal, I mean, everything in the forefront of my mind, was finishing Frosty Knot Garden, which was my oldest work in progress. So I'm like on this finishing train, not starting. Was not feeling the starts. But as it turns out, there was a bit of a workaround. And so I was able to start a new character from my Big Bang Theory to consider as each of my new starts for that week. So that covered 5 of those days. And what it ended up doing is that I would start the character. What they considered a start was 50 stitches. Well, once I finished 50 stitches, that was like basically each character's head. So I just finished each of the characters, and then by the time you know it, it's done. So I finished my Big Bang Theory. So here's a preview of what Big Bang Theory looked like the last time you saw it. And here's what it looks like all finished up. So just as a reminder, this is a 32 count Belfast in Dill by Picture This Plus. The design is by Wee Little Stitches, who are the original Pixel people. And here we have them. So we have Bernadette, Howard, Rajesh, Penny, Leonard, Sheldon, Amy. And at the bottom it says, and it all started with the Big Bang. And then I have my signature in a thread that was used in Amy's skirt because it blends into the fabric super well. It looks like Amy's not wearing pants, but you know, it's fine. It's all good. So there we have it. And that was like a super quick finish. I think I did it in 2 days. That first Sunday, I was super frustrated with the whole bead situation, so stitching was limited, shall we say. So anyway, I got Big Bang done. Now, as I mentioned, this weekly challenge was 7 starts, whereas I only had 5 left to do because I had Rajesh and Penny finished from earlier in the month. So, how did I fill those other 2? Well, I actually had 2 other new starts. So, my other new starts were as follows. The first one I started was, and I'm not sure which one I started first, but it was 2 new starts in the same day. So this is the Stitchrovia Quotes to Live By, the Stitch Along Benefiting Mind UK. And I am stitching it on hand-dyed fabrics by Stephanie Belfast in Winter Wishes, 32 count linen. And this is a little bit more than my start. My start was just 50 stitches of the green up here. And since then I have done just a little bit more of that top frame. And I'm so excited about this fabric for this because it's just subtle enough, but it's also got some modeling to it. So I'm really pleased that this did not work for my Stargazer because I really like it for this. So there you have it. And so I'm never going to get caught up because this top banner here is full coverage. And it's a whole lot of black full coverage, so like long lines of pink, which is not my favorite thing ever. But it's going to take a little bit of work to get that filled in. It's going to take some time. But this, I believe, is only a 9-part, and so the blocks will be done as of September. So I might be able to finish this year. We'll see. Now, one thing that I've noticed with people talking about this on FlossTube is sort of talking about their own struggles and battles with mental health, because this is Benefiting Mind UK, which is a nonprofit organization that provides resources for those dealing with mental health issues. So I thought that I would just sort of talk about my own struggles with mental health a little bit. My official diagnoses, I have anxiety, situational depression, and post-traumatic stress disorder. And so those are some things that I deal with. And I say all the time that affirmations, for me personally, work better than medicine. Affirmations of self, affirmations of just things around me. They help me just so much more than any of the medicines that I've tried. And I have tried some medication, but by and large, it created more problems for me than it helped. Still on the hunt for just a little bit of extra help in the medicinal range. But as anybody who struggles with anxiety, anybody who struggles with depression, anybody who struggles with post-traumatic stress disorder, it's a process. And so that's why this SAL means so much to me, because Mind UK helps with that process and finding what works for each individual and each individual's individual battles with these mental health disorders or struggles or what have you. That's huge. That's such a big deal. And this SAL is $2 a month. It's $2. And the proceeds go to Mind UK. So anyway, I just thought that I would take a second to sort of talk about that. Stitching also helps me. let's be honest. So there's my Stitchrovia, and I will work on this progressively throughout the month. It is my SALS week, and so I'll work on it probably a little bit during my SALS week here, and just all the time whenever I need it. It's really nice stitching, so there you have that. The other project that I started was a Mill Hill kit, because I just kind of wanted to start something a little bit small. And this is the epitome of something a little bit small. So I started Snowflakes from the Winter Holiday Collection, and this is a kit by Mill Hill. And I have some really tall trees that move a lot when it's windy. And it's windy. Anyway, so this a little kit. I gotta tell you, I'm a little bit bummed. I feel like here in Virginia, we got cheated out of winter. We didn't get snow. Danny never got a snow day. So I needed to stitch some snow. So I started this, and I just barely made a start, and I haven't done anything further on it. But I got some blue stitches in. So there's that. That will be a really quick finish. I mentioned yesterday something about 5 finishes possibly, and I had considered just busting that out and getting it done. But I obviously didn't do that. Why? Because I was working on the Mind SAL yesterday. So there's that. And this is on 14 count perforated paper. Sorry, I know it gets a little bit dizzying looking through the holes there, so there's that. So I'll get back to that eventually. Okay, next, let's see. The day before my beads showed up, so my beads arrived on Thursday, so Wednesday night, I'm like, all right, now what? So I decided to pull out something else to try to get a finish, mostly because I was looking at my Stitch from Stash and I was like, oh my gosh, I am $75 in the negative. That's bad. So I needed to get a finish to feel a little bit better about my Stitch from Stash. So I'm looking at my Year of Whips. I know what I can work on. My Cross Stitch Lover by Ursula Michael. And this is a project that I started in Mania of last year. And I'm going to insert a preview here of what this looked like the last time you saw it. And here it is all finished. And it's way bigger than I had anticipated it being. It's pretty big. So this is on a 32 count Belfast linen in cream from Zweigart. You notice everything is on hangers these days. I'm a big fan of that because they're protected and they're not folding anymore. And all 3 of these that I've showed you today are either using hand-dyed threads or are on hand-dyed fabric. So can't wash them. Anyway, this one is using hand-dyed threads. Everything you see here is in either Petite Treasure Braid or Weeks Dye Works or Classic Colorworks. And so I worked on the green, the last big section really, and then I did the scissors, and the scissors I did in Petite Treasure Braid number 28, which is like a rose gold color. My storks are yellow gold, but the yellow gold Petite Treasure Braid got really lost on this fabric. So I decided to switch it up for a color of storks that I would really like if they existed. And rose gold is another of my favorite colors right now. I really like that color. So that is my storks. And then I finished up the edges of the hoop here. And then I did the fabric. And originally for the fabric, I had picked Galvanized by Weeks Dye Works, and so it was kind of gray. But I decided to go with something a little bit brown, just because my fabric is cream colored, and so to give the illusion of like threads and folds and shadows, I thought that a darker shade than the color of my fabric would suit that better. So that's what I did. And I cannot for the life of me remember which color I used for that. I had it right here. Let me see. Right here. Oh, no wonder I couldn't remember what color. It's a limited edition. And the limited editions from not Crescent Colorworks or Classic Colorworks, from the Gentle Art Sampler threads, they are nameless. But it's just like this soft brown color. I had purchased quite a few months back a pack of Gentle Art Sampler threads from eBay. Not with any real use in mind, it was just like a collection of them. So I figured that this unnamed honey brown color was never going to get called for in anything, so I may as well. So there's that. So there's my cross stitch lever. Now, can anybody find my signature? It's right there. So this design has these little circles, and I have no idea what they are, I'll be honest. But there's, let me see, is there one in purple? There's one in purple there. See that? So I just replaced one of those with my signature. And snuck it in there. So this is really cute. Really, really like it. Again, bigger than I was expecting it to be. I can't remember what the finished value is based on the size, but I deducted some because it's basically, it's majority backstitch, but then I added the same amount back on because hand-dyed threads. So there's cross stitch lever. All done. And this is one of the projects that I'm considering framing myself. I don't know that I'm necessarily going to put it under glass, but I'd like to at least get the habit of pinning and lacing. And so I may do like a flat fold finish for this. So I need to be looking up some Vanna the Twisted Stitcher tutorials. Then I got the beads for Frosty, finished up Frosty, and then I was in a little bit of a hangover, so I was trying really hard to avoid that hangover. And I was really hoping that it wasn't going to happen to me, but you finish something major and all you suddenly want to work on is that something. And so for a few days I was like, all right, what do I work on? I need to work on something that I just want to work on. I want to work on Frosty. Oh, I can't because I finished it. Yeah. So I fought against the urge to do nothing. And I pulled out something else that I knew that needed to be done before the end of the month. And so that is my Birthstone Dragon Sow by Ingleside Imaginarium. You'll be seeing a preview here of what this looked like the last I showed it to you. And mine is on a 32 count Belfast in Sparkling Diamonds from Crafty Kitten Fabrics. And as you saw in that preview, I was part the way through the Amethyst Dragon, and I have since finished the Amethyst Dragon. So, look at, there's like big old danglies. Alright, so let me come in a little bit closer so that I can show this to you accurately. Okay, so the Amethyst Dragon, she's actually she's a wyvern. And I had mentioned this the last time that I showed it to you, that she kind of looks like she's in like this kind of still in the egg pose, so she's kind of like a baby. She makes me think of like a baby. And so you can see the crystal there, and when you look at it sideways, you can almost see through it, but it's definitely amethyst. So a couple of things that I changed, and this kind of has a story to go along with it. You can see that she is a little bit green and purple, and the reason that I did that is I've been watching more knitting podcasts as of late. My knitting bug is definitely picking back up a little bit. Not quite sure what that means, but nonetheless, it is. One of the knitting podcasters that I watch very regularly is the Knitting Expat, who is Mina. And Mina is a prolific knitter. She knit 31 pairs of socks in 31 days. And I don't mean started 31 pairs of socks. I mean she finished 31 pairs of socks in 31 days last year. Goals. She's a phenomenal knitwear designer. She designs shawls, hats, socks. Today, actually, her New York collection of socks, it's sort of like a pattern club, is starting today because she just recently moved to New York. So, she's kind of been in my mind. On top of the fact, her self-proclaimed favorite color combination is purple and green. So that's why we have purple and green here. I just thought that combination was excellent. Now, amethyst here was charted with like an orange colored eye, which is, I love that look, but I just thought I'm just going to make it green because green and purple. And then I was trying to figure out a way to work in the crystal here, because in the design, and you'll be seeing a picture of the designed version of the amethyst dragon, but she's holding a stitched crystal right there. And it's kind of like a three-pronged crystal. I'm trying to make my hand, whatever. So knowing that my gems look like these, trying to figure out a way to make this work. So kind of this is like a story, you guys. Going back to the pose, where I thought she kind of looked like she was still in the egg, so she's a baby. And I'm thinking about, you know that moment that babies discover their hands and what their hands do, and that if they have a thought to make their hand do this, then it does. It's like this magical moment. Where just all of a sudden they're like, oh my gosh, those are mine, and I can do things with that. I can grab that. I can grab mom's hair with that. It's magical. So I was kind of imagining my baby wyvern here doing the same thing, but with her tail. And the only way that I was going to make this work with her tail is if I kind of made that gemstone like dangle a lot more. And so she's kind of playing with it, because you see her claws up here, and so she's able to play with it. You guys, I don't know. I see these things and I think of stories. So her name is Amina, because she kept making me think of Mina from the Knitting Expat, and amethyst, Amina. It all sort of came together like it was supposed to. So now here's the kicker. Mina just had a baby girl. Her name is not Amina, but so I thought that was kind of perfect. Her birthstone, this baby girl's birthstone, is an amethyst. Purple, green, Mina. So anyway, it just all sort of came together, and so I love it. And I love that it's a little bit different than everybody else's, because it's on this little chain, and I just used some lime green Mill Hill seed beads from my stash that I just pulled because I thought they matched well. So there is my little Amina. And next, which released at midnight Eastern Standard, was the Aquamarine Water Dragon. Very exciting. I'm so excited to stitch him up. I think him. I'm not quite sure yet. His personality and his backstory will come to me later, I'm sure. So there's that. And loving this. Absolutely love this. I do struggle with the back stitch a little bit, just because I just want to make sure that I get the right look of it. But so cute. Cute little dragons. Okay. Gosh, I am wordy today. I don't have time to be wordy. Alright, a couple more things to show you. Part of my rotation, the first few days of my week 4 of my rotation, I am devoting to the Stitch Mania Sows, Christmas all year round, and Trick or Treat, year-long Trick or Treat Sow. I still don't know if I got those names right. And as I've spoken before, I am working on the Lizzie Kate Jingles and Tingles respectively for those sows. So it reached a point where I needed to pull out my jingles to get that done. Preview here of what this looked like the last time you saw it. And here is what the whole thing will look like finished. So I was working on this block up here, and I had part of it done from when I've worked on it previously. And so this is being stitched on the, it's being stitched on the called for fabric, which is, I believe, a 32 count amber, but don't quote me on that, and it is by Witchelt. And as you can see, it's not done yet. And that's because I got wicked burned out. I just wasn't feeling this at all. I just was not in the mood for stitching this. And part of it has to do with the stiff fabric, part of it has to do with the, this whole design is done in Weeks Dye Works. Part of it was to do with, it was just not calling to me. It just wasn't a part of my interests at the time. So I have since put the Jingles and the Tingles on hold. And I will play catch up when I feel like it, but it's just not right now. I'm a little sad that I couldn't just finish out this block. I mean, really all that I have to do is his body and the snow that he's standing on, and this block is done, but I just couldn't do it. So this is going to be on hold for a little bit. And I am strangely but also relieved. Strangely comfortable but also relieved. To just give myself a break. I stitch really hard sometimes. Like I go gangbusters for so long, and it's exhausting. And I knew that in order to be able to get that done, I was going to have to do that. And I just wasn't feeling it. Not feeling it. So there's that. Oh, this is an up-close version of the actual block itself. So there's that. And I never pulled out Tingles to work on that because they are on hold. One of the things that I thought I was going to finish yesterday, but I didn't, is something that I worked on to try to help with the post-Chatelaine hangover. And it was something that was also close to finish, but also required some silks. And it would have felt good to get it done. Woo, a little overzealous there. So this is May by the Cricket Collection. And you'll be seeing a preview here of what this looked like the last time I showed it to you. I haven't worked on this since before October because my last preview was from my Year of Whips plans video. Some dark clouds coming. Alright, so this is on a 28 count cashel in antique white, and here is where I am at currently. So a couple of things you're going to notice immediately, and the first of which is the lack of the taller lady over here. I am not stitching that taller lady because I don't feel like it fits in with the rest of the monthly series. The rest of the series don't have these extra characters, And I know why they did it. They designed this with that because May, in letters, it's only 3 letters, and the rest of the months are 4 letters plus. So to sort of make up the space so that this one didn't look so much smaller, they added some extra elements. But I don't like it because it doesn't match. The irony is that they did it to try to get the size to match, but as a consequence, this doesn't match. So I am omitting it entirely. And so it's just a little girl flying a kite, which is totally fine. She doesn't need a parent watching. It's fine. She can fly a kite by herself. And then the other part that's missing in mine is the whatever the stork is standing on. This design calls for four thread gatherer silken colors. Thread gatherer silken colors are expensive. They are like $7 a skein. And thread gatherer silken colors retires their colors with astounding regularity. And 2 of the colors from this design are already retired. Now this design, let me see if it has a year. And I think I've done this before where I was looking for a year. 2014. So since this was designed by Vicki Hastings in 2014, 2 of the colors have been discontinued. One of which is the green for the letters, and the other is that color there. That color is a highly variegated color. It's purple and blue and sandy colored. So, anyway, I had already found a replacement for the green, and the green that it calls for was newt green, and so I got a green called, I believe, wart frog. That color in there, and there's a few stitches in the kite that it calls for. I couldn't find a replacement for it. It was lemongrass, and I even searched some less popular online stitching shops just to see if maybe they had a skein hanging around. Nobody's got one, and if they do, then they're charging $15 for it. I'm not buying a $15 skein of silk for like 30 stitches. Dropped frames, sorry about that. So I'm not interested in spending that much on one skein of silk. So I finally found an alternate called Cactus Sands. And so I've since ordered that. And I also ordered the buttons because there are 2, just another button company buttons that go in this. A butterfly and a bee that goes in there. Super cute. So I ordered those from 123 Stitch. My 123 Stitch order was supposed to be delivered yesterday. My tracking said in transit to destination, no scheduled delivery time. It was not delivered yesterday. It is on the truck to be delivered today, so I will finish this today. This was going to be my 4th finish for February, which I thought was really great because I love that alliteration. But c'est la vie. It will be a finish today or tomorrow, depending on when I can get to the mailbox. If the mailbox is even still standing by this afternoon, we shall see. So there is my May. And once I reached the standstill on this, then I pulled out the Mind Sow and worked on that a little bit yesterday. And then at 7 o'clock yesterday, we're kind of moving into current works in progress. About 7 o'clock yesterday, the new block for the Lakeside Needlecraft Doreen Jones collaboration Fantasy Stitch Along was released, and I love this block. It's my favorite. Stephanie from Miss Oh So Crafty and I have had a discussion about maybe stitching a phoenix this year. Well, I've got my phoenix because this month's block is a phoenix. How cute! Okay, let me move my wildly appropriate phoenix needle minder, courtesy of Julie from Nifty Needle Nannies. Hi Julie, hope you're doing okay. so that I can pick this up and show it to you. Oh, look at how cute. Love this. So I started stitching on this yesterday at about 7. Actually, no, that's not true. I didn't start until today. So I had to come up here and finish out the circle because I hadn't done the circle yet. And then I got started on some of my little phoenix's feathers. So that's where I'm at currently. And so I will work on this definitely a bunch today. Certainly some. It's probably going to take me until tomorrow to finish it up. But there's that. And that's where the whole thing stands. As I've said since last July, this is on 32 count Belfast in Heroic by Picture This Plus. This is our 8th block. We are officially 2/3 of the way done with the blocks, but I am nowhere near 2/3 of the way done with this project. I have so much border to do. But that will happen a little bit later. So anyway, love this. Love this block. I was so excited when it opened. Danny was in the middle of saying something, and I think I interrupted him with like a, "Oh my goodness, I love it," kind of a thing. And then I was like, "Oh, sorry, honey, what were you saying?" So there's that. And so, like I said, I will work on that some in the next couple of days here to get that finished up. A couple of other things happening that I talked about yesterday briefly. This is the Sal's week of my rotation. So week 1, I'll be working on that. I will work a little bit on the Aquamarine Dragon for the Ingleside Imaginarium Birthstone Dragon Sal, at which point I will finish up on the 15th for the Color a Day Sal in Stitch Mania. I also am going to start the Clouds Factory Fabulous Women in History on this beautiful double dips Keone fabric from Under the Sea Fabrics. And it's a Belfast linen. I'll be starting that today, maybe tomorrow, because if we lose power, I'm not going to be able to stitch. So that will be happening. And I'll probably work a little bit on the Mind Sal. So that's kind of what I've got going with my rotation this week. I also have this weekend, like I mentioned yesterday, my Mirabilia March Madness. And so this weekend I'll be working on Bluebeard's Princess Mirabella. So yeah, those are kind of my plans for the next week with regards to stitching. Alright, so let's go ahead and switch gears and talk about some retail therapy because I have purchased a few things. The first of which is something that I have somebody in particular to blame for. And that person will not shy away from accepting said blame, which is totally cool. This is courtesy of Danielle from Stitcherista. Danielle was talking in, at the time, her most recent video, and I think she's published 2 since, but she was talking about Down Sunshine Lane, and she was showing the giveaway with regards that she, I think, had going. I think it's over and done now. So I had to go onto Down Sunshine Lane's website and take a look at their clay needle minders because I heart clay needle minders. They're super cute and individual. So Wednesday at approximately 9 o'clock in the morning, I placed my order. By noon Wednesday, 3 hours later, I had a shipping notification. I'm like, okay, well that's cool. I know that some places they will generate a shipping notification, but they won't necessarily put it in the mail that day. 24 hours later, she was in my mailbox. So, honest to goodness, is it Amy with Down Sunshine Lane? How do you do that? That was just absolutely shocking. And I mean, I know, it was just the one. I just ordered the one needle minder. 24 hours? Like, that's crazy. So awesome. So I have my sweet little elephant because guess which project has been on my mind lately? My elephants. So there's my girl, and I haven't used her yet, but she's so pretty. And it's taking everything in me not to sign up for their Needleminder of the Month club. The thing about it is that everybody gets the same one, so maybe I'll just do my own Needleminder of the Month club and I'll just order one every month. So cute. Can't stop showing it. I can't stop looking at it. I love elephants. All you penguin lovers and fox lovers out there, I love elephants. So cute. Okay. So I got that. Let's see, other things. Oh, my fabric for Stargazer. As I talked about, I ordered from Chromatic Alchemy 32 count Belfast in Florin. And I am pleased to say that this is my fabric for Stargazer. It smells so good. So good. Oh. So, this is perfect. It's so perfect. Like, if I had a fabric in mind, it would look like this. Seriously, to Adele and to Loves Rubber Stamps and Needlecrafts, thank you so much for suggesting this. And to the dyer behind Chromatic Alchemy, you are a genius. Thank you so much. Love this. Love it. Perfect. Very stony colored and very much like Hokey Stone. Cannot wait to start my Stargazer. So there's that. Okay. Next, I have my fabric of the month from Hand Dyed Fabrics by Stephanie. For the months of March and April, because Stephanie has a lot going on, she picked a couple of colors that, no, February and March, not March and April, February and March. She picked colors that she has had on her site for a while, but has never offered for Fabrics of the Month, and I'm like, perfect, love this idea. So for February, the color is called Gina, and again, my subscription is a 32 count Belfast, and love it. So this is, it's greens and purples and blues. It's absolutely beautiful. It's not shocking. It's subtle, but it's also not coming across properly. The greens are a little bit richer. It's not that muted in real life, but yeah, this is gorgeous. And no idea what's going on it, but something gorgeous, for sure. Okay, next is Michelle Sayada's fault from Heaven and Earth Designs. She put up that they had an influx of 25 count easy count fabric from Zweigart, so I bought some. And it was so beautifully packaged. I absolutely loved it. First of all, it's serged, which is just lovely. This is a fat half, by the way. It's a 26 by 36 cut. And it's easy count, so they are in 10 by 10 blocks, whereas Magic Guide is in 20 by 20 blocks. And it's Zweigart, so I know that I like this fabric. It's a Lugana. It is a little bit stiffer than what I normally get, but that's fine. So it came, and it was wrapped in this dragonfly tissue paper that was then slipped in a plastic bag, and it had a label on it. But the fun thing was that it was packaged just exactly like this. And so it opened kind of like a book. So there was like tissue paper on the inside and tissue paper on the outside, and it was like that. I was like, oh, my Heaven and Earth Designs book. Conveniently enough, a book of a Heaven and Earth design is going on this. And that design is Avarice by Marta Dalig, which was a gift for me from my then boyfriend, now husband, for one of our anniversaries a few years ago. So This is for Avarice. I am ready to go. Because he also bought all the threads. Spoiled me rotten. So there's that. Ready to go. And from now on, for my big Heaven and Earth designs, if I can get easy count 25 count, then I absolutely will. Because I don't have to grid this. I don't have to do anything to this. Except load it on my frame and start stitching. So there's that. On the subject of knitting podcasts, another podcast that I have been catching up with is the Dramatic Knits podcast, which is hosted by Steve, who is one half of the Leading Men Fiber Arts independent dyer of yarn. And Callie is his co-host. Callie is not a part of Leading Men Fiber Arts, but she's good friends with Steve. And I love them. I have loved their podcast for a long time. And I've even talked about Leading Men Fiber Arts, I believe, on the podcast, because one of the first shawls that I ever knit was out of Leading Men Fiber Arts. Anyway, so Steve started cross-stitching. And he has shared his projects on the podcast. And he recently purchased a Heaven and Earth design kit for a Stephanie Pullman-Law design that I have been eyeing forever. And that is One for Sorrow. And it follows the Magpie poem, 1 for sorrow, 2 for joy, 3 for a girl, 4 for a boy, etc. And I believe that Heaven and Earth Designs has released the first 6, and I absolutely, of the 6 that they have released, 1 for Sorrow is my favorite. I have a thing for ravens right now. So on Sunday, we got a spur-of-the-moment thunderstorm. I wasn't expecting a thunderstorm, but we got a thunderstorm that eventually blew itself out. But anyway, so it's raining, which is my favorite. And so I'm thinking of sad things. And I'm thinking of ravens and the rain. And Heaven and Earth Designs had a sale on their charts last week that was supposed to end last Wednesday, I think. And it was still going on Sunday. So I real quick ordered 1 for Sorrow, which there's a preview of here. Because it was on sale. And I was already thinking of rain and blue and ravens and that Magpie poem and Dramatic Knits, and like it all just sort of came together. So I ordered that, and it took everything in me not to start it immediately. But I chose not to. So Steve, if you're watching this, let me know when you start your 1 for Sorrow, and I'll start it with you, because I have no restraint. None. So that is it for my retail therapy. That's kind of all I've purchased as of late. I have a couple other things on their way to me. That 1, 2, 3 stitch order has a couple of other fun things in it, so I'll show that to you next time. So let's talk about books here real quick. And I showed you guys in the video yesterday the 2 books that I had, the tasks that I had selected, and then their respective books from my TBR jar. So I just brought them here. Falling Kingdoms by Morgan Rhodes. This is the first book in the Falling Kingdoms series, not yet finished. Young Adult High Fantasy. And then we have Anne Bishop's Written in Red. This is adult urban fantasy. So there's that. And I also have the second book in this series, so I might, binge the 2 of them. This is also not yet finished. The 5th book comes out this year. The 6th book comes out next year. Reportedly. As we know, sometimes authors are on their own deadline. George Martin, I'm looking at you. Anyway, so those 2 I will be reading in the month of March. I also picked a couple of other things that I feel like reading. The first is The Flatiron by Alice Sparberg Alexiou. This is all about my favorite piece of architecture in the city of New York, and that is the Flatiron Building. Go figure. Every time I'm in New York, I love this one. It stands out to me. There is a book publisher housed in the Flatiron. Actually, I think there are a few. I think Thomas Dunn, which is the publisher of this book, is actually housed in the Flatiron. And so this is about the building of the Flatiron, and sort of the changing feelings about it, because it is different looking. It's this triangle shape, but it curves around the edge. It's a cool looking building. So, the Flatiron, the New York landmark, and the incomparable city that arose with it. It's a pretty building. See if a certain somebody gets that reference. Next, it's kind of related with what I'm currently reading. I'm currently listening to Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. And this is one of my favorite classics that I started reading, before I ran out of beads on Frosty. Danny was over at a friend's house. It was dark. I'm stitching on this winter garden. I just wanted something gothic. And gothic lit, Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. So I'm starting to listen to the audiobook version, because I love listening to classics on the audio. So definitely listening to that. The irony is that I found out recently that Miss Sadie Ruin of Knitter's Nightmare fame and Yarnivore podcast has never read Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. Girl, please, just read it. Just read it. Just read it. You'll be dreaming about Manderley yourself. So anyway, rant over there. One of the books that's been on my TBR for a very long time is also Gothic fiction. This is more young adult Gothic fiction. And this is Compulsion by Martina Boone. I met Martina at Book Expo America in 2014. And then I bought this hardcover from Book Outlet, because that's pretty fantastic. So I'm just going to read you one of the blurbs. Darkly romantic and steeped in Southern Gothic charm. A fresh twist on the Southern Gothic, haunting, atmospheric, and absorbing. A star-crossed romance, lush Gothic plantations, and an island full of intrigue. Compulsion was a heart-pounding race to the finish. Yeah. Yes, please. So this is about Watson Island, and I don't know if Watson is a fictitious or a legitimate island, but it is centered around a plantation in South Carolina. So, yeah, had to start this. It is the first in I'm not sure if it's a duology or a trilogy. I don't know enough about this to be talking about it. Oh, that's cool. It's like a family tree. Where'd that go? I like books with stuff in them. So there's that. So that's another book that I'll be reading this month. Along with listening to Rebecca, I wanted to grab a couple of my other sort of Gothic romance or Gothic themed things, but we'll start here, see what happens. So this is quite a TBR for me, and I'll just pick them all up. There we go. Okay, last gear switch. Let's talk knitting, and then I'm gonna go hibernate. So the first thing that I have to show you, when I spoke to you last about knitting progress, I was in the midst of my rotation, and the next project that I had to work on was my Meteor Shower Shawl, which is by Very Busy Monkey. I did not bring that with me because the progress that I made in those 3 days was minimal. So I will show that to you the next time that I work on it, and hopefully I can make a bigger dent in it. I am in the edging, and I might have knit 5 rows in 3 days. So next, as I mentioned, I went back to my Ashburn shawl by Melanie Berg, which I am alternating between my projects in my rotation and this. So this is getting more attention than most because of the knit along. And so be proud of me, guys. I put in a stitch marker. So this is where I was last time that you saw this. So I was just working in the green, and the green is Lettuce by Malabrigo Sock. This is, of course, a shawl by Melanie Berg, as I said. And I have since worked up, and you can see the little bits of yellow kind of coming through. And so I have a couple more repeats of green, of 6-row repeats of green, and then I get into the big section of the yellow, which is Ochre, also by Malabrigo. So here's my ball of lettuce, which sounds funny in and of itself, and here's my ball of ochre. Cake. And so that is kind of what I've been working on. I worked on this for 4 days because I've increased it to a 4-day on this. So my other whips get 3 days, and then this gets 4 days, and then the rest get 3 days, and then 4 days, etc., etc. So I made pretty good progress in 4 days. I am pleased. However, guys, if you're attempting a knitting pattern, do not assume that you are smarter than your knitting pattern. So the yellow there is supposed to be some slip stitch color work. And I'm looking at this while I'm knitting it, and I'm like, that's really pretty, but like, it just looks like a little bit of a yellow stripe. And so then I'm comparing it to projects on Ravelry, and I'm like, why does mine look wrong? Maybe I'm doing this particular stitch wrong. Maybe I'm slipping the stitches wrong. So I watch a demo just to make sure I'm slipping the stitches correctly, and I am. Like, why does this look wrong? I knit English style, and so I hold my working yarn in my right hand and wrap. It takes a long time. I'm really slow knitter, but whatever. It's me. So I thought maybe that was playing a role. So I'm looking at my pattern. Oh. So in garter stitch, both rows are knit. So you get the bumps. And so my assumption was that the comeback row, so you have to knit out a row for the slip stitches and then come back. I thought we were just holding on to that same pattern of knitting to maintain the garter stitch pattern. No, there's more going on there. And this is a paid for pattern, so I'm not talking about it any further. So that's why my stripes look like stripes and not slip stitch color work. Guess who's not ripping back that far? Not ripping back. I will fix it now. I will, from here on out, do these stripes the right way, and I'm making this my own. I love when shawls reach this point where you can wear them. That's nice. So yeah, not fixing it, not dealing with it. I'll do it correctly from here on out, and it will just be like my own personal design aesthetic. One thing, somebody asked me about all of the stitch markers. I have a ton of stitch markers on this, and it's not for any particular reason. It's not a patterning thing. It's counting. This is based on the number of stitches, and so it's easier for me to add in stitch markers every 10 so that I can visualize where I'm at in my pattern. Because I don't want to count to 115 every time I need to figure out where I'm at in my pattern. So there's that. What else? Needles. These are on Chagu Fix Circulars in, I believe they are US size 6. Yes, US size 6, 4mm needles, shawl needle of choice. So there's that. And so in a couple days here, I will get back to this. Now, on my rotation, the Meteor Shower Shawl is my last on my list. It's my last project in my rotation. And so, as I mentioned last time, I get a new start, I get a new cast on when I get through my rotation. And so, as I talked about my plans yesterday, I was casting on my first pair of socks in Sweet Georgia, Tough Love sock, 80% merino, 20% nylon, in the At the Ballet colorway. And so I have since caked it up. I cake using a yarn ball winder and Swift. If anybody's wondering, this is not a hand wound skein. No. This is 400 some odd yards. I'm not doing that by myself. So I had this really great intention of vlogging my journey through my very first ever hand knit sock. But then I did this. And so I guess I won't be vlogging it because I've gotten too far. So I'm pretty much at mustache status here. Apparently that's a sock knitter thing when you reach this point in the cuff. I don't know. I've seen it on podcasts. Do as the monkeys do. And so this is the cuff. I am working, I didn't mention this yesterday, the pattern that I'm doing is not the same as the one that Tina is doing for her Simply Knit Cow. I am using the Volan Vine Favorite Socks pattern, which is a free pattern on Ravelry. And it's just a basic vanilla sock, which means that the body of the sock, there's no patterning or anything going on. It's just straight knit. Perfect for first socks, and in general, it's great for socks because it's mindless. You just knit circles. I am knitting this on magic loop, which just means great big long cord to make a small tube because I can't with the 9-inch circulars. And these are my Knitter's Pride carbons in US 1.5, 2.5 millimeter needles. And I have a stitch marker. This is made by Marika of Crafty Bit Creations. I believe The Real Life of Me is her channel on YouTube. And this is just marking the front because I just want to make sure that I know what side is my first needle, essentially. So there's that. Loving it. You guys, I'm knitting a sock. Self-proclaimed shawls only knitter is knitting a sock. The only concern that I have are my ladders. And from what I understand, your ladders get better the more you get used to knitting magic loop or tiny tubes in general. And this will, I don't believe that they will be as extreme as they are right now just because of the way that they're sitting there. So I am loving this. I am knitting a standard 64th stitch sock because that's what all of the people knit. And yeah, loving it. Really, really loving it. Considering casting on a second pair in a different yarn on my other needles just to give them a try. But maybe I'll just stick with this for now and see how this goes. It's a 1x1 rib, not a twisted rib, just a standard knit one, purl one. As everybody said, I'm addicted. I just want to knit on this all the time. It's fun. It's good times. So that's what I'm knitting on. If we lose power, I will probably work on that, we'll be honest. And I knit the cuff for 2 inches and then move into the body of the sock where I just knit and stockinette for forever. Not forever, but for a while. So that is it. 2 hours later, that is all that I have to report as far as stitching, updates, and knitting, and books, and such. Thank you guys so much for your continued support. Thank you for watching this epically long video. I hope to be back next Wednesday with some timely updates, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks again, everybody. Talk to you later. Bye.